Hi, everyone. This is Todd Talks, and this is a special episode where we are talking about sort of single-player D&D, which is really two-player D&D. It's one dungeon master, one player, and it's something I've been doing for a very long time with my wife, Megan. And I think it's actually incredibly fun. I wish there were a lot more rules for that sort of thing. I am joined by Makenzie, who's a fantastic writer. She writes actually for D&D Beyond and a few NDA projects that we've got coming up, as well as would you like to introduce yourself? Her partner, Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dennis. Nothing as impressive, but we did start a one-on-one D&D podcast that we ever so creatively named One-on-One D&D.
We were great. It was a great idea, and we were
You
like,
know what
yes.
you're getting.
Honestly,
yes.
we were just shocked no one took the domain name. So we're like,
know!
okay, I guess we have our name now.
And look, we get to put two natural ones in our logo, which is like always a good omen. So
Yeah, what could go wrong? Yeah. Ooh, that domain name search though, that's real.
Yeah, we were surprised. We were like, the Twitter handle's free, and the domain name's free, and the email's free.
Oh, that is like that's the
cool.
thing.
We'll take it. And so now we are one-on-one D&D.
Yep.
That's amazing.
That's very lucky.
What made you want to start that podcast?
I guess it started with the one shot we ran like
a lot of it was because Dennis and I live on opposite sides of the country, so we don't get to play a lot of D&D in person, and we don't get to play a lot of D&D with like groups to our respective like communities or universities and stuff. So when both of us were kind of like, well, the D&D groups at our school are full or otherwise inaccessible, and you're far away, why don't we try playing D&D together, just you and me, and then we'll make it a podcast so we actually stick to our goals and put it on the internet. And that's what we did.
What did you learn? I'm gonna go ahead and ask my wife Megan. What have you learned from playing D&D one-on-one? Because I think it's a lot of pressure, first off, especially on the player.
Honestly, playing one-on-one is less pressure for me personally, because I am pretty new to D&D. I've started playing in 2016, and there's so much I want to play. So if I roll a new character, like my Wildfire Druid, I tested it out on you, and I had the freedom to make mistakes. And when I'm with a group, I'm always afraid that if I just like let loose and go crazy, I'm going to hurt someone on accident or kill them. So if you're in a single player campaign, you get to sort of test out all of your spells and abilities, and also your accents, weird personality traits. You get to see what works and what doesn't. And Todd does not hold back with me. He's very honest, so that helps a lot too.
And some of those encounters tend to be a little too powerful. What for you two? What have you learned through this process of one-on-one D&D?
Dennis, you want to go first?
Sure. I guess I would also say that in a way we sort of discovered D&D together, because I was part of a D&D group at the college I went to, and Mac really didn't have a D&D group at her college, but I sort of would tell her stories about the character I was playing.
And I had no clue what any of it meant. I had no clue what a spell slot was. I had no clue what a firebolt was, or what a cantrip was, or I didn't know you're playing a wizard. What's a hit dice? What?
I mean, I'm playing a wizard, so what's a hit dice?
A little in joke. They have low hit points. If you're watching this show, I'm not quite sure why. You don't know that joke. But just to clarify, they die easy. Yeah. So Makenzie, what did you learn?
Yeah, so we learned a lot about, I think a lot of it, we learned how to play D&D together. I think that's what Dennis was talking about, was like, we learned through talking about each other's, like, or learning through talking through Dennis's game, and then also watching Critical Role, which is how I kind of got into it. And then we learned through watching and then trying to mimic it. we quickly learned that the play styles that you see on stream and the play styles you see in actual plays don't often map to real life, and that it's very much of a long and enduring but rewarding process to figure out your own DM and play style. I remember we switch on and off DMing, so sometimes Dennis will DM for me, and then sometimes I'll DM for Dennis, and we both have very different DM and very different play styles. And so getting to learn and explore that in an environment where we feel safe enough to communicate about, like, I enjoy this, I don't enjoy this. I enjoy when things are a little bit more chaotic. I enjoy when I actually have a little bit more structure and sort of being able to bounce ideas back and forth and sort of feel that safe play space in order to explore that and feel more comfortable and confident in our play styles.
Dennis, are you okay? You were very close to the camera there for a while. I
Yeah,
listened to everything you said,
just
Makenzie.
trying to-
It just reminded me of Iron Man 3 when his security guard has the iPad like the wrong way up against his forehead. Yeah, it is interesting because you do learn. One thing I've noticed is like D&D is so much faster. Like the plot moves faster.
Yeah.
There's not like what I learned from Megan is like things will go right or wrong very, very quickly.
And encounter design is weird.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. And there's so many different ways you can do it for one-on-one. And it's that's been, I think, my biggest learning curve is figuring out how to DM for encounters without me rolling 10 different D20s for like 15 different mobs chasing one person.
Yes, we recently did this. because Megan was playing a wildfire druid. Are there little tools like, because obviously they've included the new sidekick rules, which I've always done, because there is that danger of, okay, if I throw them in here without an NPC helping but not taking away agency, because that's a big danger, right? You don't want a full-fledged character helping them. You need someone who isn't as good at like maybe one thing, and also if that thing's healing, that's pretty great. Do you kind of implement NPCs like that yourselves?
So this is interesting because we thought about that at first, and I remember Dennis and I talking and going, yeah, we don't want another character. If you're doing this alone, you're doing this alone. Suffer. Suffer. So I remember, what is it, Dennis? You made like we ended up reworking the rules for basically death saves. It was like the major minor injury table, right? Like we worked that was your creation.
So I think our sort of outlook with one-on-one D&D was to make a really character-driven story. And we have sort of two main characters, my PC and Mackenzie's PC. And seeing their arcs intersect and having the character progression really drive the story is what we want the focus of one-on-one to be. So we made the decision that having sort of sidekick NPCs, even if they're not full characters, does sort of take away from that. So for a lot of our encounters, it does, I think, provide an opportunity for the DM to really design encounters that don't have to be resolved with combat.
Megan, you have had quite a few sidekicks, though.
One of my favorites was your Dr. Edgelord. What kind of character was he? Was it elf?
Like a shadow sorcerer.
Yeah. Shadow sorcerer.
Yeah.
I think for my situation, I was playing a gnome artificer, and I was very overzealous, and I was under the impression that Strahd had taken away my friend. And I wanted to attack Castle Ravenloft. So Todd, the DM, had
by yourself, by the way.
By myself.
Yeah.
So for this specific situation, I kind of needed the help from an NPC that he created, because it was like, I wanted to attack Castle Ravenloft with undead bodies. Don't ask me why. This is just the conclusion I came to. I needed to put alchemist fire inside those undead bodies. So it was like 6-month montage of me and Dr. Edgelord collecting all of these undead bodies and stuffing them full of alchemist fire. And that was like an entire game. And it was so much fun actually getting to do that. It was a ridiculous campaign. And I don't think I would have been able to do it without the help of those NPCs. But I think that's just my play style. I do things very haphazardly, especially when it's just one-on-one, because I'm just kind of testing the grounds and experimenting. And my gnome was basically like Tim the Toolman Taylor. Like, she would try to fix things and it would go very wrong.
Without the hate and the intolerance.
What?
Nothing. I'm just making a Tim Allen slam. It's one of my favorite characters, and actually brings up a very good point. Is because it's a single player campaign, a lot crazier stuff can happen.
Oh boy.
Oh
boy.
What's way about her character that she's talking about, Whittle, is Whittle was hyper intelligent yet overly focused. A single vampire attacked her. She found out through research that the original vampire was Strahd, and then figured that, well, then Strahd must be trying to kill me.
Yeah, I basically went to the vampire manager.
Yeah.
I thought he was responsible for it.
Vampire Karen.
Yeah, you vampire Karen. And so you couldn't have done that with a group, right? A whole group would have decided, made the choice to believe something that preposterous and silly, and then go on a 6-month montage of something that's so absurd that not even Strahd could have predicted would have happened. This would have never happened in a regular campaign. And this is what I like about single player campaigns, is you can get really weird. Do you guys does everyone have an example of something similar that has occurred?
I licked a god.
You licked a god?
Oh.
How'd that go?
So I critically licked the god. So so my character I'm playing is a very reluctant cleric. She was basically pulled back from the dead by the Watcher or Helm to be a protection cleric. And she did not want to be a protection cleric. She hated that so much. And so she got this, like, I think it was like some kind of dream or like some kind of weird nightmare, and she was like praying, quote unquote, to her god, but basically going, yo, what did you pull me into? I don't want to do this. And she was yelling at an artifact, and Helm's artifact is a glove with an eye on it. And so she got really mad at the artifact, and she's also like 19. And so when the artifact didn't answer, she coughed up a big loogie and spit it on the artifact.
As one does.
And Dennis made me roll to see if I would actually do it without hurting myself, because I was spitting a loogie at a god, and I rolled a nat 20. And that's still the best nat 20 I have ever rolled, because I critically licked a god.
And you had to roll a 20, otherwise I would have just knocked you out with electric lightning.
Which, I probably deserved, because I desecrated not just a holy artifact, but my personal holy artifact.
The
That's
holy
amazing.
artifact that you keep on your arm?
Yeah, the one that
whole
gives me all
time?
my powers. Yeah, that one. I was like, nah.
You have a very complex relationship with your god.
It's mostly me flipping off Helm. I think there was 7 episodes of just me flipping off Helm, which is one of the gods you probably shouldn't flip off, but my cleric was like, nah, I hate this. I don't want to be. I didn't want to do this. Go away.
Well, here's a few questions from chat. Real quick, we have does the PC have more than one character? I would not do that. It's already hard enough to have one. I certainly with the sidekick rules, the sidekicks are pretty basic. So if you want to let them run both, that's fine. But if you're the dungeon master, I would be the one usually running that type of character, I would say. Let's see, what else do we have? Are there duet specific rules for beginner campaigns for a single player? There is a module. Why am I forgetting it at this moment? The starter kit that came out.
It's it's the Dragon of Icefire Peak?
Yeah. Yep. Icefire Peak has those rules. It's available on D&D Beyond right now if you want to download those. And they've got a series of sidekicks that are pretty low level, but fill kind of like all those niches, like being a cleric or a rogue or whatever someone could use. Another good thing is low level monster.
Mhm.
I think that's worked quite well for me in the past. But the main thing I always remind people, if you are including an NPC like that, that's helpful, not to take away agency. It is not their story; it is your player's story. So they should be, if they are good at something, they should be terrible at something else. So, um, do all of you have any tips? And this is an interesting question for being an unbiased DM. What is a biased dungeon master?
I don't know
That
if I've
is-
I
ever
don't know what that
not.
means.
I don't know if I've ever not been a biased DM, and I'm assuming it's like because DMing for someone you're in a romantic partnership is you have the
Mm,
temptation to be nice. I don't know if I've ever felt that temptation.
no.
I was,
Megan,
I
have
was
I ever
gonna
been
say,
nice?
No.
I was like, have any of us ever been nice to our partner when we're doing one-on-one D&D, or do we just feel more freedom to just screw
You know,
around?
I think it works both ways in these single player campaigns because the DM can have the freedom to also lay waste to his player character if he or she wants to. And
Mhm.
I think Todd's particular play style doesn't really involve killing his characters very often. So I'm very fortunate with that. We were prepping for Silver and Steel, and I told him, "Do not take it easy on me. Like I want to break the game. I want to be comfortable, and just fly by my own." He's like, "Okay," and that was the first time he ever killed me. I did a death saves, and that's because I asked for it. I told him
Yeah.
not to take it easy on me, and it was actually kind of I don't know, it was kind of fun to die in D&D for once. Just is quick. Like 1 minute you're invested in this character, the next minute the game's over. It's like, okay, just shutting everything down.
Shut it down, folks. We're all done.
All right, we're done. Turn the lights out.
We're done.
like,
Goodbye.
It's a good, I guess that's a pretty important lesson, death in the game. But if you're running a long-term campaign out, you don't want to necessarily kill the one
Yeah.
player
Yeah,
in the group because you
I
also
think that's
kill the
why.
story.
I think that's big reason why we modified the death save rules to be major, minor injury. So
So
there
if you
is
if you
a
roll
sense
like
of
3 successes, you
consequence.
only wake up like with a minor injury, and then if you roll 3 fails, you have like a major injury that
Oh,
like
Okay.
I
gives
like
you a
that.
penalty to like saving throws or ability checks or something, and you have to go find like a cleric to like pop a restoration on that bad boy.
Oh, that's really good. I like that.
So that way,
Mhm.
I mean, I was playing a cleric, so I did have access to healing spells for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Dennis plays a fighter rogue, and they don't have healing spells. So I know we were just a lot more flexible with our death rules.
Also, if you were to sustain a major injury, you've also probably been looted of all your good stuff.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of penalties that can apply.
Yeah. You can have consequence without murder.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What's this mercy?
I do wish there were more consequences in D&D beyond death, because that's why I like Wish. Like if you cast Wish, you get that -4 penalty, or you if you're resurrected, you also get that big penalty for a while. And
You gotta love a sweet deck of many things to add in more consequences.
Oh, that deck. You know, it sounds fun at first.
I've been one of the few people that have a good experience with a deck of many. It wasn't in my game with Dennis, but I have had a good experience with this thing.
Oh wow! Well,
I know I'm rare.
enjoy that while that lasts.
I've not had the privilege of playing with that yet, and I'm scared.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
What is
It
it like?
can-
1 in 3 outcomes is like good.
It is.
I don't like those odds.
Yeah, it's a deck of 22 cards, and I think 3 are explicitly good, and then like a couple are like nah, and then everything else is bad.
So you essentially have a 66% chance of it going very bad.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how invested you are in your character. Because
Okay, I'll
there's a
use
chance they
one of my
just
throwaway
become
characters.
undone.
This is interesting. Yeah, here's a good question from chat. Well, we have someone, Azamar GER. The question is, the strongest and weakest part is the hive mind in any D&D group. So they always come up with something. If they get stuck, how can you handle this if it's a solo group? You know, like if your narrative is a little too tricksy, um, do things suddenly come to a standstill? I think this makes you a lot more of an improviser when it comes to a player and a dungeon master for myself. So I haven't really run into an issue where um actually it creates funnier issues. I'll be completely honest. Like if a player only has one idea and they're stuck to it, that
Like
again
going
is like,
after Strahd.
yeah, like going like Strahd is my enemy. That would never happen, right? Like no group would decide this based on that knowledge. And it was
I'm,
fun. Sorry.
I'm not so sure about that last part. But yes, it is fun if there's one idea and it's a bad one. If there are no ideas, then it's time for the choo choo.
The railroading, or the I know Dennis and I differ in this. Dennis is very good at giving my character very explicit plot hooks and missions. And I fix this problem by never planning anything in the first place.
Yeah, that might be more my play style as a dungeon master.
I'm like, do I know vaguely what's going on in the background? Yeah,
We'll just wing it. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Dennis is
Meanwhile,
trying to figure it out.
when I'm DMing, I'm like, let me get my map out with the
Yeah.
factions.
You actually drew maps. Charming.
It also have you found that there was an instance where it was a very short game. It was like one encounter. I didn't know what I was going to do. We were just like, let's play D&D. We sat down, and Megan's character Whittle started off by making some wolf stew. She had all these traps around, and so she heard noises outside and ran into a werewolf, and continued to decide not to understand what was happening. So her response to seeing this werewolf that is clearly trying to kill her is to offer it the wolf stew, and then realize that the wolf stew was in fact the werewolf's mate. And I
thought it was hungry.
Yep. So it got increasingly insulting and horrifying. Yeah, it escalated quite quickly.
I didn't get very far in that game. And that was definitely one of those games where, you know, when it's just you and you're faced with this challenge and you just want to go about your day. Like the game literally just started. I'm walking out my door and this werewolf approaches me, and that was the entire game. And I think that's what's helpful about these one-on-one campaigns, is that you get to use your imagination in tough situations like this. So the next time it happens, you're like, okay, I kind of know how to approach this challenge, because it is tough if you don't have an entire group to help you with this werewolf. Like there's no reason I should have survived that.
Well, luckily for you, ballistas exploded back then in that version of the Artificer. So I think they still do explode, but not with so much damage.
What was the subclass? I think it was a new one that I was playing.
It was the it ended up being the artillerist.
Yeah. It had turrets.
Yeah, so you almost had a built-in kind of assistant, kind of a built-in NPC, and that's another thing. A lot of subclasses now do have NPCs and companion creatures that can assist you, and so that's almost like part of D&D at this point. And I feel like they're making a lot more pet classes, subclasses. So I think it's going to be a trend we see more of. For you, Dennis and Makenzie, did you have the funniest moment that you experienced playing one-on-one that you didn't think would happen?
Other than the licking?
Other than the licking of a god.
Critical Lick was definitely at the top. I'm trying to think back.
I did send you
we've
plunging
just been
in an
inactive
elevator
for a while because life happened.
I did send you plummeting to your doom in an elevator. That was pretty funny.
That was definitely memorable, but I think the funnier part of that was just sort of just the whole slapstick comedy of running away from guards.
I rolled so many nat ones for those guards. The nat ones did more damage than the actual hits. I couldn't roll for garbage that session.
My character, when Mackenzie's DMing, it takes place in sort of a tiered city, And so my character is a thief, and so he was stealing from the upper crust of society. And it was just a slapstick comedy as he would work his way down into the bowels of the city, running away from the guards that were following him. And I think I took more damage from the shots that missed than any shot that actually hit.
Yep, because I rolled so many nat ones for those guards. They were quite the most incompetent people. They caused the whole elevator to fall, but they couldn't hit one person. So, that was fun.
We got another good question in chat. How would you go about DMing a one-on-one game for a kid who's about 10 years old? This is how I started. My brother started running me on a game. And there's a second question: is being a healer useless? Back then, the only cleric he made me play a cleric so I could heal myself. Wasn't a lot I could do at level 1. So I don't want to say clerics are useless by any means. They're actually quite helpful, and now they're a lot tougher in D&D. They can wear armor and all that other stuff. So being a healer is a good thing. You don't have to be, but it will certainly help your play. But here's my advice: if you're running things on for a kid, be easy on them. Let them be creative. They'll figure out really fast. They'll learn the rules by example. After session by session, it's a lot to throw at someone because the spotlight's on you. Because at least when you're in a D&D group, you can kind of like chill for a little bit, right? Like you're going around, you're taking turns. But if you are DMing for one person, don't expect them to react so quickly, because you do sometimes need that time. Like sometimes you're just happy it's not your initiative, right? Like, and that someone else is talking, so you can come up with something. So if you're running a game for a kid, give them time. That's
especially with all the game mechanics can be really intimidating. Even for me, sometimes I want to have a minute. I'm grateful to play in a group so that I can read through everything I have. It's a lot to absorb.
Especially if you're a druid.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Oof.
Yeah.
Big oof.
That's I've been terrified of playing a druid, and I've great respect for that.
I also want to say, perhaps not for someone who's just starting out playing D&D, but back to the question of how you keep yourself alive starting out as a cleric or another class. I want to say multi-classing is your friend, definitely.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I don't think it's even, there are very few classes I think would have an easy time doing solo play if you don't multi-class.
Artificers are probably one of the most complex classes and subclasses in D&D right now. They are capable of, however, doing just about everything. They can have a pet, they can do some healing, they can do some warding, but I'm not sure I would recommend that for a new player typically, because they are very complex.
The only 3 classes that I could see actually working without multi-classing would probably be Artificer, Bard, and Warlock.
I mean, Paladins are pretty strong on their own.
Paladins can have lay on hands.
Yeah.
I think if you did the right druid subclass, like, because druids can get tanky. Druids can tank, so.
Right. Yeah, the moon druid can both tank and also be very sneaky and get into places that otherwise they wouldn't be able to, I suppose.
Playing a druid is just waiting to get to like level 5 and then just beating everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Getting back to the question about how you can DM a 10-year-old, I was thinking it kind of helps me when I start off at a higher level. If you're just by yourself and you're level 1, unless the DM is making it very easy and not very challenging, I think starting off at a higher level is really helpful. And it's more fun because you have more spells and things you can play with.
That's true.
I think also it's like not every kid is going to have like not every adult has the same play style. Not every kid's going to have the same play style. Like I know my little sister, who's been trying to get into D&D, is very impatient and definitely like blue screens a little when presented with too many options. And so I know there are a lot of kids who would love like all the spells and the magic and all being able to do so much. And my little sister was just like, I want to hit things and I want to hit them hard. Is it my turn to hit things yet? Can I hit it yet? I want to hit it. Can I smack it? And so that was fun for her. And so basically talk to whatever kid or whoever you're playing with. I'd recommend having a sit down and really talking through what they want to get out of playing D&D. Like what kind of character they want to play. Do they want to play like a brave brash knight who goes and slays a dragon, or do they want to play like a more wizard exploration based game? And so that way you can really build and cater to whatever that kid enjoys, so that you both have a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
but
and
it is also
possible.
It is also possible to have fun without doing any of that. As when I ran a one-shot for Makenzie and her friends, none of her friends had played D&D. One of her friends just played a rogue that took everything on head on.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was
the rogue who never snuck.
That sounds like a movie title.
It was great. And it kind of worked.
Yeah, I can see that. Rogues are very stabby. We have another question. When playing one-on-one D&D, do you modify the combat based on the class of your player? Yeah, sometimes. It's not always necessary, but I mean, again, these are things that you would normally do for a D&D group to make things challenging and interesting. I also enjoy this as a DM because sometimes it's a good test. Megan was playing this wildfire druid that also chose the changeling class, and I did allow all these yellow musk zombies were running at her, and clearly things were not working out very quickly. We were using like area of effect stuff, and fireballs were going off, and all the wildfire druid is very complex, on top of an already complex class. So,
and I had the ability to shapeshift because I was a changeling.
Yes.
So I shapeshifted into the undead, and because their intelligence is a 1,
yeah,
I went undetected.
So I allowed because she obviously wasn't undead herself, but of course she could be able to shift into something that kind of looks like them.
Yeah.
And confuse them because they have exactly 1 intelligence point. Like they're the worst of the zombies and the worst of the skeletons. Like they have no intelligence whatsoever. They're just teeth. So I allowed it. I have not allowed plenty of things, and things have gone very south very quickly. So do you modify it for your own groups in any other ways sometimes?
I know at least for me, when it comes to combat encounters, I do a lot more Indiana Jones running away from the boulder sort of encounters rather than like Aragorn charging the orcs at Amonhen sort of thing. I like when it's one person, it's a lot more fun also, and I don't have to roll as much if like the guards aren't attacking and it's just you have to make a saving throw to dodge stuff. And I think that helps, at least for me, who gets really distracted during combat very easily, keep up with things as a DM. And I like the idea of playing around with the environment a little bit more. Dennis, did we ever run combat when I was playing Bree? I don't think we ever did. I think I might have stabbed a giant crab.
That was during our test session. We were just playing out with Roll20, and
I kited.
Basically crab petting. I think
do we lose them?
I think the internet just went kerploot.
Okay. We have another oh, there he is.
Wait. Your internet cut out for a hot second there, Dennis.
Oh.
And again.
I will never know the secrets of how he runs combat. I will never know.
I do very much like treating massive combat. Like I like doing area of effect, like dexterity saves against like arrows being shot at someone. instead of doing each an individual thing. Like, I wouldn't say no to a whole rule set for that sort of stuff to speed up combat.
I mean,
Honestly,
that's kind of what like the chase encounter rules are.
yeah. They cover a lot of that. Sometimes flat damage helps as well. So all those things could be pretty helpful.
Yeah. In terms of designing encounters, haven't. I've just used the uh, challenge rating rules in the Dungeon Master's Handbook and just scale that down for one player.
Yeah. Another good Girl Gamer 37. For first timers, is it better to pre-roll their characters for them after determining what class they're interested in, then introduce them to role playing first and ease them into the mechanics? I don't like ever doing that. I like someone having to roll up their character themselves and then giving gentle suggestions. But if you get too fiddly with interfering with how they see their character and what their character wants to do, you ruin it for them.
It's so much fun to go through D&D Beyond and look at all of your options. For me, that's actually really inspiring. Sometimes I'll just go in D&D Beyond and just roll a character, something that I would like never play in a million years. And then when I'm done making it, I'm like actually kind of in love with this thing. And then I'll show it to Todd to get his feedback. Like maybe I didn't choose like the right background or something, but I think like if you're doing it the old school way and you're not going through D&D Beyond, that can be kind of cumbersome for a new player.
Yeah.
But for me, it's really fun rolling a new character.
I think
you get an
also,
ownership, right? That's you only get one first character,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't take that away from someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also I do see a role for pre-rolling characters when you're trying to get a large group of people introduced to D&D.
Mm.
Like when I first learned to play D&D, it was part of like a D&D club, and they had like these intro days where they would take like 16 or 20 people, and we had to run a first session. And in that kind of environment, it's really not practical to have everyone roll up characters. So I feel like that's sort of what pre-rolling is meant for. But when you're just playing with one person, I mean, it's not that much more time, and it's a lot more fun to guide them through rolling up their own character.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the other question was, do you recommend playing level 3 through 5? I think we've already answered that. Like, yeah, and I think it's safer for them to be at level 3. So level 1's pretty rough place to start. It's good for learning, certainly. But wow, you find out real quick as a wizard, like, I cast my one spell. Like, that's, guess I need a long rest now.
Why did you attack me like that?
I have never played a wizard, and that is exactly why.
Yeah.
Or like a warlock, you just use Eldritch Blast over and over again.
Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast.
Eldritch.
Can we get a recording of that so replace the current recording? Yeah. That's how it has to be said from now on.
Yes.
That's the only way it works.
Another
the
question:
Southern draw.
Would you recommend the Theater of the Mind one-on-one D&D or playing with a grid? I can say that both have been great. Theater of the Mind is really fun. I've had a great time doing that for one-on-one D&D games, but having that grid is really helpful, especially for new players, understanding, okay, this is how much damage the area of a fireball will do, and this is how fast things are moving, and because it's a lot.
It's a lot for a DM to keep up with.
And a player, because again, you're on the spot 24/7. Like, you don't have that structure of everyone else talking as well, and that actually, I think, helps with memory. Being in a group of people who are also playing D&D with you when they're talking makes it real. You can get real bogged down in combat if you don't have a grid and minis, but that can set your imagination on fire. So I think both approaches are pretty great.
I think it's interesting because Dennis runs his side of the campaign with the map, and I run my side, Theater of the Mind.
Okay.
So I know for me, because I prep nothing, it's a lot easier for me to use Theater of the Mind, because then it's a lot easier if you're running through a city and you end up on it's a 20 tier city and you end up on level 14. I don't have to panic about planning, what if you go to level 15 or level 3 or level 5, and I don't have to build out a map of every single level of the city. I can just sort of fill it in as I go. And that works well for me because I love urban campaigns and I love that flexibility. I just punched my mic. For
That mic
Roll
did you.
damage.
it goes jiggle jiggle. So like, but for Dennis, when I was running with Bree, we were in like a forest or in like a small city, and so it was a lot easier for us to map things out when we had the drawings and the grids and figuring out where I was walking along in this forest when there was just sort of trees to deal with. And I think it depends on what play style you like and what works best for your brain. I struggle so much with maps as a person, but Dennis, you like maps, right?
If I didn't have maps, I just have no idea where anything. I think it's just like I'm a lot more spatial in terms of how the plot moves. So like having a map with locations does sort of help anchor you as a DM as to knowing this is the universe of possibilities. This is the world they're interacting with.
This is a couple of interesting questions here. So, how often would you say you retreat as PCs or see the PC party avoid combat instead of diving into it head first? I think if you want to learn really quickly, you can play a one-on-one D&D. You will learn self-preservation because you don't feel like anyone's going to save you. But that's really great because especially if like you're a rogue or whatever, you start looking at adventures not in a combat focused role. I think you think of things that, like talking your way into situations and out of situations, loading up a bunch of dead bodies full of alchemist fire and shooting them over in a catapult. You start getting really inventive with how you're going to, because it's not ever official combat, really. It's just, I guess, Shadowfell terrorism. I'm not quite sure what you would call that.
Seems legit. I honestly think I can't remember. I can't recall any times I actually stayed in combat. I think I've run away more than not.
Which is like the logical thing, right?
Yeah,
it's the logical thing, but it's the less fun thing sometimes for me. I think it really depends on what class I'm playing, because when I was playing my little gnome artificer, I just dove right in.
Right. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that, but then when I was a druid, I was hiding in a tree because I had that ability. And so I got to play with survivability a little bit because I had that option to me with that class that I chose.
Is there any negatives to role-playing D&D 101 that you discovered? Like, is it harder for the DM or the player? Is there one weird tool that you learned very quickly helped doing this? For player or DM?
Communication.
Huh?
Communication, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of what we learned, we actually had to take a break because we realized our playstyles didn't mesh. And so figuring out, like, actually being able to sit down and communicate and go, I like this element of role play and I don't like this one. And then also being able to talk through world building together about like what our world looks like and being one-on-one and essentially getting to create a universe with one other person and really hammering down and narrowing on those story elements. That has been the biggest help for us in terms of figuring out how to open up that role-playing space and get more comfortable in it.
You would have to have a session 0.
Yeah.
Like a
we had
big
like
one.
3 different session 0s for us. Like we had so many.
I think also like, you need a session 0, then you need a session 0.1.
Yeah. Honestly, the one-on-one games just always feel like session 0s. There's so much communication and things you discover about yourself and about your DM's play style. You're learning the entire time, and it's such a good tool. If you're trying to learn how to play with a group and you're apprehensive about that, I think that open line of communication, that comfort level you have with that one DM could be a really powerful tool.
It's definitely D&D boot camp for sure.
Yeah.
But in, I would say, a safer space.
Yeah.
But it's definitely concentrate. Like don't lick the orange juice coming out of the can. Like it's gonna be a lot. I did.
That's a new simile. I've never
Yeah.
heard that one
Uh-huh.
before.
That one before.
Have you ever done it? It's amazing. Don't do it.
No.
No, I haven't, Todd.
No, your tongue. Yeah, you just licked at God. Yeah. If you want your tongue just to die, lick orange concentrate out of the can, and it will be an experience. I don't even know if they still
Oh,
make that
orange
stuff.
concentrate. I was like, what type of orange juice comes in cans?
Yeah. It was the 80s.
I was-
There was
So I think that's all of our chat questions. What do you enjoy the most about it? Because I think the thing you should remember is it's so fun, whether it's a friend or it's your partner, you get to have this experience with them and it's hilarious.
Mhm.
And you have this story together. And it's such a great way as couples to spend time together or as friends.
It's such a good bonding exercise.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I am really grateful for our one-on-one games. As much as like it was a little rough start and like figuring out how to play together and how to best complement each other, it really opened up a lot of communication and helped us better our communication outside of the game. And it also just gave us something to create when we're super far apart. We don't get to see each other very often because we live on opposite sides of the country. And so basically making a world and this fantasy world that even if we weren't physically together, we could fictionally create a space together and play in that space. It helped us feel a lot more connected, and
Mhm.
that's something I will always cherish and always love about what we created and what we do when we play our games.
I
Yeah,
definitely learned a lot
definitely.
about Megan because I learned how quirky and weird and creepy her characters are.
I learned that
When-
about myself too. I had no idea.
That-
Dennis,
After you filled the 5th body up with alchemist fire, or did it take 15 bodies for you to realize?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. I was like, maybe I'm weird.
when like four undead bodies to the alchemist fire, completely fine. 5 though, too many.
No, that's crossing the line.
Yeah, that's too many. Crossing the line. Dennis,
The
what
first one's free.
I know you love world building with me. Is there anything else that you've really enjoyed about playing with me? Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah, you better
Hello.
answer this
Hi,
appropriately.
hi, Dennis. Hello, what do you like?
No pressure.
I really enjoy that we rotate DMing because it can be a lot to be sort of the perma DM. So I think it's sort of a unique opportunity for us to world build together in that each of us is the DM at a time, but we're creating a world that we share. And I think I really enjoyed seeing the sort of universe that we've built just through like mishap and like 1 step forward, 3,000 steps back.
What do you think? Sorry, I got sidetracked very quickly. What are some tools? Because you are on 2 sides of the country, what are you using? Are you using Zoom or are you using Skype?
We use Roll20 for I use Roll20 to get music. I know Dennis uses Roll20 for maps. Most of the time we just use Google Drive and just share PDFs.
Okay.
And then we use like Discord. We don't have a very like smooth setup, but we kind of just use what works for us.
Oh, another thing that we haven't mentioned, I don't think we've mentioned explicitly, but 101 D&D is actually a podcast. So we also use Audacity for recording.
Okay.
And server setup for hosting the files. And WordPress has a built-in sort of podcast function, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think it helps us because then we get to keep our sessions and we get to record them. And I always like listening back to things. It also means I don't have to keep notes, which is great because I don't keep notes ever. I'm very bad about that. So that's also really helpful. You
I'm
don't
bad
have to
about that
record
too.
your sessions, but it's real nice as some.
Oh, but that's a great point, because this is such a like an intimate thing that you share. How often do you get an excuse to record like that, right? Like to have this like D&D session you played, that you can listen to like years later. That's like a really cool thing to be able to share.
I and like I'm very surprised, but like it actually had a small amount of interest. Like people were listening other than us, which
Aw.
is shocking to me.
It's because it's good.
It's 'cause it's
Dennis.
good.
It's good. We made a good thing. You refuse to believe it.
I,
Yeah.
Where can everyone find that podcast?
it's 101dnd.com, that domain name that we got really lucky
That
with.
very
ONEONONEDND.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Well, we do have
We stole it.
we do have a little bit of a surprise. Yeah, Megan and I have actually talked about, and this is also like caused some her some fear. It's like me running her on a 1-on-1 game, live streamed. But we haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. But maybe one day we'll try that out as well.
I'm working up to it.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. It's scary. It's scary for
It's
the
really
DM.
scary.
It's scary for the player a little bit, because
Yeah.
like, at least it's like
because-
a podcast. You get to
Because
edit,
my
maybe.
approach to it is blah, like whatever comes to mind. So like if we're live streaming that, I'm definitely going to be more self-aware.
Well, what was that again?
That was perfect.
Okay. All right. We do have a little
Somebody
bit of a
clip that.
surprise for everyone in chat right now. Everyone who's in chat, we are giving away 10 players handbooks. So that could be your introduction to D&D right now. I believe the moderators are handling that in chat at this moment. So you can enter to win one book. I was wrong, Lauren. We just gave it away. All right, it's gone.
Yay.
Lauren cursing my name right
That
now.
was quick.
So we gave a player's handbook away in chat just now. Okay, perfectly. Good. I think I got a little bit confused. We're giving away 10 players handbooks in Silver and Steel, which airs at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's being DM'd by Jasmine, that bronze girl. I'm in it. Megan's in it. We've also got B. Dave Walters, and of course, Lauren Urban is in it as well, playing one of the quirkiest Warforged of all time. So I'm pretty excited about that. Do you have any last bit of advice? All right, looking away from my community manager's Slack. Do you have any other advice for those doing one-on-one? My last parting thing is as scary as it may seem, is like has been one of the most fun things I've done in D&D my entire life, is running a game for my wife. She's funnier than I would have never discovered that she could be this funny and that weird and have such inventive ideas. And when you're playing D&D one-on-one, things happen so fast, you learn to adapt to nearly anything. So it is kind of fascinating, because if you want like plot lines that move fast, one player is how you get there. So that's the thing I've enjoyed most about it. How about for you, Makenzie and Dennis, and of course Megan?
I guess going off the same thing, let your players do incredibly silly things. It's very easy when you're in a group to kind of feel like that atmosphere of everything needs to be serious, fantasy, sort of heavy weight sort of thing. But when you're playing with one other person, you have a little bit more freedom to be a little funny, where you can do things like stuff bodies with alchemist fire, or lick a god, or insight check a coconut, or
Yes, oh, that's right.
I want to know more about this
I
coconut.
forgot about that.
I feel like if you insight a coconut,
I also
there's gonna
nat
be something
one
in it, right?
No, I nat one that insight check.
Okay.
I
Now
saw
you will never
nothing
know.
in that coconut.
A
The
coconut
coconut
is
is
enemy.
perfectly honest and straightforward. This is the most direct coconut ever.
So is a sentient coconut?
No, it was a completely normal coconut. I was just very
It's-
suspicious. So I was like, can I
Suspicious
insight?
coconuts.
I don't trust this coconut. Can I insight check it? And Dennis was like, sure.
Sure.
To this day, I hope the coconut got away. So you still think that might be your arch enemy, the coconut?
That other and there was like a whole scene of her trying to hide behind a tree that was thinner than she was.
Yeah. Yeah, let your players do very silly things. It creates good
I-
memories, if not like great
Mm.
stories.
That sort of builds into what I would say finally. If there's anyone in chat who's thinking of starting a run, words are hard. If there's anyone in chat who's thinking of starting a one-on-one game, just go for it, because if eventually you'll develop a good chemistry with the other person, and they'll just get into their character, and it will be great. And it's probably going to be a little bit funny, but that's fine.
It'll end up being a lot of bit funny once you get comfortable.
Yeah, it'll
Mhm.
be a lot funny. Any parting words, Megan?
I know that we're almost out of time, but I don't know if we really talked about like accents very much, but I think that's one of the most educational uses for one-on-one campaigns, because I'm new, I feel silly role playing and I feel silly doing accents. And so I got to try a few different accents on Todd, and like 99% of accents I cannot do on purpose. So we honed in on the one that I can do on purpose all the time, and we're leaning into that. But that took like a few years for me to figure out. I think
Yeah.
Can you give us a
that's the
sample?
coolest thing.
Every accent she does becomes Russian. Like, it doesn't matter.
And so I just kind of leaned into that. It is either
You just lean
Eastern
into the
European or it
Russian.
is
It
Russian. I don't
It
really
is
know.
very easy to do Russian if you just think about very heavy, very serious.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Put the tongue in the back of the mouth.
And you just sort of tip tongue on top of throat. It is very easy.
Yes, she understands.
I understand. I do Russian very much. Understand. Yes. We are going to
Alright.
do outro in this voice.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This has been Todd Talks.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, thank you, Makenzie and Dennis, for sharing your stories. Thank you, Megan,
Thanks for having
putting out-
us.
Oh, anytime. I thought this was a very important topic to talk about, especially like right now. It's a great time to play one-on-one D&D. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.